Hey everybody, welcome to Your Unpaid Therapist.
Hello, welcome to another episode of Your Unpaid Therapist.
I'm not getting paid. I didn't even get a donut.
Oh, that's sexy though. I like it. I'm Valerie Milagros Ortiz. I don't know.
I am your host, Alicona. She's away. Bradford.
This is Your Unpaid Therapist. Shoo-wah, cha-cha. These are part 2 of Jen's confessions. I hate that song. Hi guys, welcome back to Your Unpaid Therapist. Hopefully you listened to our last episode because it was filled with all sorts of goodies, some really great stories. We are joined here today by one of my new wonderful, amazing friends. This is Jen Roberts, and she is a WoW superhero. You'll know her as Ice Cold. And yeah.
I feel like we need that.
She is incredibly inspiring. She is a survivor. Like I said, you're just going to have to go back and listen to the episode before this because we want to pick it up. We were talking about coping. We're going to finish going through some of the other life events that she's gone through and then talk about how she's started anew, afresh. So if you've ever gone through whether one trauma or a series of traumas and gotten to a point where you just needed to start over, this is the episode for you. So anyways, I am joined by lovely and wonderful Valerie Ortiz.
Hola, hola. Welcome back, everybody. Yeah, so many man, it's I know, I think you said goodies. It's just so many deep, tough stories, situations. But we're so grateful to you, Jen, for sharing with us and going on, letting us go along this journey with you. But before we continue, we know we're doing these songs, y'all, and you're gonna get 2 songs from us this week on a song that spoke to you today, this week, this month, whatever. Y'all, should I go first?
Sure, yes.
All right. So this song was inspired by my boyfriend's daughter because we just celebrated her 6th birthday, and this has been playing in our house like 24/5. Like, I'm gonna give a couple hours, but so if you are a mom or an auntie or a grandma, you might know what I'm about to sing. This is so funny. The hell, why would you do that? Why would you do that to our audience? That is just rude.
Wait, hold on. Let me tell you all. I have to dance to that song every fucking weekend.
So you want us to suffer? Now nobody's gonna be able to stop hearing that song in their head. All right, hopefully you hear this. All right, set it off, go berserk. Tonight I light it up, light fireworks, burn it down till all they're seeing now is red, 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 red. That's it. It's called Red, from The Rise of Red, the new Descendants movie on Disney Plus. Kylie Contral is the one who plays Red, and she played my daughter on Gabby Duran in The Unsittables. So yeah, that is the jam these days, y'all, at our house.
Aw, good for Kylie.
She's doing amazing. It's awesome.
All right.
Okay, who's
Jen,
next?
do you want to rock, paper, scissors? How do you want to do this?
Doesn't matter to me.
I will rock, paper, scissors you. Hold on. Ready? Okay.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3.
Oh, wait. Okay. I can do rock, paper, scissors, shoot.
Yeah. Okay. Rock, paper,
Scissors, shoot.
You won.
So, okay, so
I gotta go first.
Jen,
Or not.
yeah, Jen had paper and Alicona had a rock for all the people who are only listening.
Sorry, my bad. Okay, well, my song, it's a classic. I imagine everybody knows this song. It'll sound like I'm singing it to somebody else, but I'm actually singing it to myself, and then I'll tell you guys why. Now I've had the time of my life. No, I never felt this way before. Yes, I swear it's the truth, and I owe it all to you. 'Cause I've had the time of my life, and I owe it all to you. Yeah. Anyways,
Absolute
so
classic. Love that song. I was scared when you said that. I was like, I really hope this is.
Some like unknown song.
Exactly.
Yeah, which is funny because, by the way, I used to make my dad, like, we would go to the video store back when you like went to Blockbuster, and I would make him rent this movie all the time, and he'd be like, "Dirty Dancing." Like, it's not like that, Dad, I
I love it.
swear.
Oh goodness. So
But
talk to us about the time of your life.
I mean, it's actually, so this is the first time I've like, I'm sitting in some successes now and not thinking about what's next, right? So
Ooh,
yeah,
that
like,
is
and that's a
great.
problem for me because I'm always worried about what's next. I'm always thinking about, I have bigger goals, bigger dreams. I
Mhm.
have like, I'm not there yet, so I can't celebrate because I'm not there yet. Whereas for the first time in my life, I'm like, okay, like, you're doing some cool shit. You know what I mean? Like, I've been
Yes.
doing. Thank you. Been doing the wrestling since February is when I started training. We started taping in August, and at the same time, I'm simultaneously doing a tour where I'm gone on the weekends, but here during the week training for the wrestling. And then at one point started filming some of the wrestling while doing, and I'm like,
And
old me,
editing podcasts and
yeah,
sending me clips. Yes. Don't forget that.
podcasting,
Mhm.
had a fun adventure over the weekend, like I said, with a gentleman, and was like, who are you, Ali Coda? Like, and just being okay with that and not being like, well, this is not the big thing, so whatever, but just being like, this is a happy place, and I could be okay if this is just my happy place for a while. Like, I don't have to, I don't know. So anyways, I'm having the time of my life, guys.
Yes, I love it.
Yeah,
I
thanks.
love that for so many reasons.
Thanks.
That's great. I feel like I could have used that song too because that's where I'm at right now. But my song, I'm gonna do it's really short.
Go
Uh,
for it.
okay, this one's so bad because I'm not really gonna sing this one.
It's okay.
You can
Thank
hum it.
God it's
Whatever.
Friday night and I just got paid. Get money. I'll just say money a whole bunch of times.
I love it.
Throw it back. I did Britney Spears. Now I'm doing NSYNC.
Yes.
But so just from the WoW tapings that we did,
Girl
um,
did like 15 or what, 16 matches or
had-
something.
yeah, I had like 17 this last taping. That was a lot. Yeah, so it was
That
great.
is awesome.
Yeah,
That's so fun. And do y'all know this, or do we know when the new season premieres, or what's yes.
Go for that, Jen.
Do
Oh, okay. So the new season starts coming out on September 17th, right?
where?
Is that the right date? On your local CW affiliate
Okay.
channel. So in LA, that will be KCAL 9 on
Okay.
Saturdays. I'm pretty sure it's 11 p.m.
That's around the corner.
I know.
Yes.
That's so exciting.
And you will see her before you see me, just because of the way my schedule is with the tour. Like, I didn't get to start taping till later on. So Jen and I were talking about, I probably don't think I'll be debuting till like the end of the year, I think. Right?
Probably. Yeah, that sounds about right. That timing.
So anyway.
Awesome. Well, I love it. A little bit higher energy
Yeah.
than
Yeah.
the last
Which,
episode.
by the way, hold on. Let's just talk about the fact that Val showed up to the taping and she brought all these friends. She made sure that they wore a specific color that was associated with my character, and she had
Sure
signs.
did.
And like, I knew you were gonna have signs because I just knew you were. But then I came walking out. I looked over, and this hoe had my face plastered on a sign. There were pictures of me on this sign, and I was like, "That's hilarious." But I can't
sure
even
did.
like.
It was a
smile
cute picture
'cause,
too.
thank you. But
I had a glitter like in her hair because her hair's orange, and it had like this orangey gold glitter. It was fabulous.
I love that.
it really was.
Whatever.
It made me
And it
feel
had little
very
quotes.
loved. So thank you.
Yeah, it was awesome. And what's even funnier, well, actually, I can't even give this away. Never mind. We'll talk about this detail when it premieres.
I know where you're going with this, but yeah.
So fun.
Anyway,
No spoilers.
so we are gonna get into it. I mean, I know we were like happy, light, and fluffy, but where we left off, Jen, in your journey, we had just talked about. I guess I'll give her a quick recap, and hopefully
Super
people
quick.
yeah. But it's basically, we just talked about the series of traumas from losing her father to being able to compete in a sport that she loved, and then unfortunately having an injury, and then having an assault happen very quickly after. And now we got to a point where after the trial, or whatever you'd like to call it, hearing of the sorts, your brother had passed away in a fire. And that's sort of where we left off, and just how to cope with back to back traumas, and where do you go from there? So
Mhm.
Yeah.
where do we
Thanks.
go from there, Jen?
Yeah, thanks for the recap. That's so how uplifting.
Uh,
Um,
By the way, that must be weird to hear out loud. Like for someone else to recap your life that like so quickly, and I don't know, so many
yeah.
money. Anyways,
No,
go ahead.
I'm getting used to it. I mean, right? We put that as part of my ice cold bio, so
Yeah.
it's in there. It's the story now. I have to accept it. That has been the
When you
journey.
say that, and I wanted, so when you say I have to accept it, like, so have you not? Like, so hearing that, is that still shocking to you?
Um, yes, and
Okay.
I guess shocking. Yeah, it's still shocking when I think about it, but I think also maybe when I get sometimes a little apprehensive when I meet someone new and I'm going to like tell them about myself,
Sure.
or I get nervous and people are going to ask me questions because um do you have siblings? uh where's your family at? Those questions get a
Mm-hmm.
little more like, oh, do I really want to tell them that everyone died? And then,
Mm-hmm.
oh yeah, I used to be a really good weightlifter. Well, why'd you stop?
Mm-hmm.
Well, do I want to get into that story either? Like these stories just all lead to sad, depressing, more sad stories. So
Sure.
it's more about how much do I want to share with these people that are asking not so
Yeah.
difficult questions, but for me, they are difficult questions.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's super insightful. Have you ever been a person, like, are you good at small talk? Like, some people actually really are. And so how are you when it comes to those kind of
It's a good
situations?
question. I feel like mm, I can. Um, Maybe it was easier before all this because
Okay.
I wouldn't easily venture into traumatic topics. But I
Sure.
do feel
I
like
just The
no,
only
go ahead.
reason I ask is, like, I don't know how not to. I don't I don't small talk. So I am the person who'd be like, well, yeah, my dad died, or I just could not say it.
Yeah.
I don't know how to not be like, just dive deep. Obviously, if you're like in a casting or something, you kind of make as light of it as you can. But yeah, so I could just only imagine how even that simple thing to most people would be difficult for somebody who's like, God, like, I don't want to have to lie.
Yes.
But I
Would you
don't
ever?
want to.
Get into it.
Yeah. Well, I
Yeah.
was gonna say, would you ever avoid a social situation because of that? Like, you're about to go to a party and you're like, oh, fuck, I just don't want to deal with stupid questions that are going to lead to this. I'm just not going to go to this party.
um
Yeah.
yeah,
Good
that
question.
definitely started to happen, especially once I came out here. It definitely changed how I had to learn how to have conversations with people, or I had to learn how to own it because I don't like to lie
Mm.
either. I would rather just be like, oh, well, this, and this. But because it was still so fresh for me,
Oh yeah.
it's like, it's not that I don't want to tell them, it's that I don't want to bring it up because now I'm going to get real emotional
Cry.
about it.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
Like, I don't want to cry in
Absolutely.
front of this person I just met. Um,
Yes.
so it's kind of
Yes.
more about, mm, it's just part of my
Protecting
healing
yourself
journey.
too.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Just gauging it.
Jen, let me ask you then, how soon after all these events happened? Because you obviously returned home. I don't know.
Mhm.
I don't recall if your brother lived close to you. I don't know why. For some reason, I feel like he lived in a different state when this happened.
Yeah.
Or
He
was
lived in
he?
Maine. So he lived in Maine.
Okay.
He did have his own place. Not with my mom. And I was living in St. Louis at the time, and my mom was actually visiting me in St. Louis when
That's
he
what it.
passed away. Yeah.
Mm.
Got it.
So there's
Okay.
more guilt there as well. Like, oh, she didn't want to leave him. She was worried about him. And then this happened. I'm like,
Mhm.
wow, could anything worse happen?
Yeah. So then going home and having to just life. Um, how long were you home before you were like, this is to a point where I just can't take this anymore and you wanted to start over?
So the pandemic was very a big part of this. So when I left St. Louis, I packed up everything and moved into an RV, thinking I was just gonna travel around the country. Um, And that was 2019. So by the end of 2019, I had been doing it for a few months. I drove to Maine, and I thought, well, I'll just spend the winter with my mom in Maine. I felt like we needed more family time, more healing time, and I needed a break. So, but then, not long after, we have the pandemic. So I ended up staying put in Maine. So it was probably like close to a year and a half before, I don't know, the demons started attacking. I don't know, attacking, or like they just were there. And I think this happened to a lot of people during the pandemic. Yeah, you're isolated. You don't have the friends and the activities to distract yourself with. So you're literally just sitting at home with all your feelings and all your insecurities and all your traumas, and they're just with you. There's no distractions. And so that's what happened to me by the beginning of or the end of 2020. I started making like the assault was really very, very much on my mind. So interestingly enough, I mean, lose 2 family members, but that's the thing that still was eating me up. So I was making TikToks about it, interestingly enough. And then I got the opportunity to like do a podcast with someone and tell my story. So that kind of triggered what I like to call my nervous and or mental breakdown, where I kind of feel like I broke. And I decided I needed to do something. So the first thing I decided was I need to quit my job. So I quit my job. I was part of the big like workforce exit in that time too. And I told my mom, I was like, I'm going to, oh gosh, there's more in there too, but I don't know.
Say it. It's all good.
Oh, okay. So, well, at the same time that I was having my breakdown, my mom told me, God, this conversation kind of sent me into a tailspin too, but she told me that she had cancer, and I almost lost it. I just felt this moment so specifically for me was, I'm a balloon being held on, and as soon as she told me this, like someone snipped the cord and I was flying off into space by myself. I was like, oh my God. I was untethered. Luckily she had surgery, they got it all, she's good. But this was all happening at that time where I was like, Mom, I am quitting my job, and I'm just gonna pack up my car and like live in my car and drive around the country. And I feel like most moms or parents would be like, that's a little crazy. I do not support you. But because my mom and I had been through so much, and she was there for me, and she is seeing everything that's happening to me, she was very supportive. And she was like, I understand. Even in the midst of her getting a diagnosis. Yeah. So that was just incredible. So that's kind of where this was the beginning of 2021. This was January, February, where I quit my job. And then I set off in March. I like started prepping, and I set off for my new life, my new adventure in March 2021. And I landed in, I had a friend who moved out to California just like 2 years before. I road tripped out here with him, and I was like, wow, California is really nice. I'd been to Anaheim for a weightlifting competition or 2 maybe. And I just thought, wow, sunshine would be nice. And I spent like 2 weeks driving out here. My friend was gracious enough to let me basically camp in his living room for 2 months. And in that time, I just gave myself permission to kind of do whatever I wanted. So I tried a lot of different things. I did this thing called Woof, where I went to this horse ranch in Central California where they're supposed to, like, if you room and board and you work 30 hours on their farm or their ranch or whatever for the week. so I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be working with horses. It didn't end up working out. The situation wasn't great, so I left. But I met a really important person there, which is just crazy, that the person that I met. And on a hike, when I came back to hang out with my friend in Huntington, I met someone who was like, oh, I'm an actress. You can sign up to be like a background actor. Like literally you just have to sign up. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm going to try that. So I started doing that, and I'm driving from Huntington to LA and just working background. And I'm like, I love this. So I got an apartment in LA instead of continuing to drive around in my car. And from there, like things just really started to take off for me. 6 months after I moved to LA, I got the WoW tryout, and then I was on this WoW TV show, which is crazy. So things just really started to snowball once I decided to disconnect and leave the old life. And I mean, I really left it all behind. Everything, the job, the like, I still keep in touch with my friends, but you leave the people and the groups that it's a little scary, but it was exactly what I needed. And here I am now, more than 3 years later, and my life is totally different than what it used to be, and it's so much better.
Now, in any of that, because I mean, obviously, like you're glowing as you talk about it, so your energy is clearly vibrating like really high. So, excuse me, I apologize. Did you in those years, like being in California, did you go to therapy or what did you do? Because I get, you know what I mean? Like when you leave something behind, sometimes it'll come back and chase after if you haven't like fully dealt with it yet. So was there any process of like fully resolving before you were able to do I don't know. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. So, and we didn't talk about this at all. So therapy has been, when I started therapy, and it's been a journey. Yes, and I was, and I will explain. So when I first submitted my, that email to USA Weightlifting to say, hey, this is what happened to me. It was at the same time I was like, I need a therapist at the same time to go through this whole process. So I worked with that therapist for about a year until I got to a good place, and then we stopped working together. And then when I was in St. Louis, I moved there in 2018. I had another therapist, and that's kind of when I thought I was going to work through this again, and things just kept coming up where we kept having more trauma. So I had worked on different pieces of the different traumas kind of throughout as they were happening. I don't know if I definitely think that helped in the journey to get here, because I had pieces of things that I had kind of maybe gotten better, or I don't know if I would like wrap them up and throw them away, but improved on. And then when I had my like full mental break, my mom, she was so cute. She was, she had messaged her own therapist and was like, can you help my daughter? She's just crying all the time. She needs help. I was like, oh, thank you, Mom. So I started seeing her therapist and another and a BetterHelp therapist at the same time. I think it was necessary at that point. I needed help in as many ways as I could get it. So I did have a therapist as I was starting the journey out to California. But I actually stopped it pretty much like right when I got to California, or like as I was starting the journey.
That's cool. You said BetterHelp? For people who don't have insurance or don't know what that is, can you talk about it a little bit? So if you're having, if you're just living your life and you need to speak to somebody, this might be a good option for you. Can you tell us about how you found your therapist through BetterHelp?
Yeah.
We're not sponsored by them, y'all. I've researched them myself. So I just wanted to hear more about how that process was for you. For anybody who's looking, right, who needs help, who's listening to this and is just like, I wish I had that.
Yeah. Yeah. And the reason that I went to BetterHelp is because all my other therapists, I got through referrals. So I knew that they were going to be good. With the pandemic and being in Maine, there are, I think, like rules on if you can. So I couldn't see those therapists, was the reason that I started with BetterHelp. And I just needed someone quick, and I didn't have the brain capacity to ask for references or Google references. So yeah, I just went on BetterHelp and I signed up, and someone was assigned to me. And I did like the fact that you could message, and
Like
everything's
text
just like,
them.
yeah, you could just like integrated. And yeah, it worked. It fit into my life.
At
And
that
I think
point.
that was the really important part. The other ones I had seen were in person, which is so great. I do
yes.
recommend that if you can. But for the pandemic, the time in my
Sure.
life, it was so convenient and it was really good. So yeah,
That's
I do recommend it.
So then you get to LA, and now you are in TV shows or movies. You're an extra. You're finding this
Yeah.
whole new thing. And who told you about the WoW audition? Did you have an agent, or was it a friend?
No agent. I just saw the listing, and I was like, oh,
Like on what?
on
Like Actors Access or casting, one of the
one of those.
Okay,
Got
one
it.
of the.
Mhm.
So for anybody who doesn't know, there's some sites that sometimes list castings, and so I guess that's where you saw that, and you were like, that should be fun.
I watched the TV show Glow when it
Okay,
first
got
came
it.
out, and my friends they had watched it, and they were like, Jen, you have to watch the show. I can just totally see you doing this. And I'm like, what? And I watched it, and I was like obsessed with it, and I said it to them. I was like, I could do this. I could see myself doing this.
How cute.
And I remember saying that, and then I moved here, and so when I saw that listing, that's what I thought of. I was like, what if I'm about to live my Glow dream right now?
And you
That is
are.
so cool.
For anybody who doesn't know, Glow was founded by David McLean, who also founded WoW. So essentially, it's like, it's not the same, but it's the same.
Yeah.
And it's funny because like when you say that, it actually makes you think about the fact that like I remember watching Glow on Netflix and being like, oh, this is like a really cool show. And then I was like, well, I want to audition for this show and not be a Glow wrestler, but be an actor that plays a wrestler. And I would postcard Elizabeth Barnes, who was the casting director for that TV show. And I'd do the little, because as an actor, you're supposed to like postcard casting directors to let them know like who you are, blah, blah, blah. And I'd find like my most athletic picture and, send it over. And I never got called for the casting. And the person I was dating at the time was like, you'd be so good at that. And Matt Marr, who you guys know, would always be like, oh, you'd be so good at that. I'm like, I wouldn't do like the real wrestling. I just want to play a wrestler. And then I looked back at my Instagram feed like maybe a month ago and had to laugh at myself because I went through a short stint of writing sketches and playing multiple characters because I learned how to edit it to where I could play opposite of myself in a scene. So if any of you scroll my Instagram, you'll see I actually did a WWE sketch where I played the ring announcer and two opponents and two people in the stands, and it went back and forth, and I'm like totally poking fun and putting myself in like positions where I'm throwing myself over my head and landing on the ground and like just laughing about it. And then to go back and be like, oh shit, like I actually do that for real now. What?
That's so crazy. I haven't seen that post, but I'm going to go look for it now.
I will totally send it to you, and you'll
Yes,
think that I'm
please.
like the biggest nerd in the world. Like someone dropped me on my head. I was a kid, but it's just
That's
funny
so
how
awesome.
that happens. Not to take the story away from you because I don't want to do that, but it just you said that and that made me think about Glow. So
No, but I mean, it's not taking it away from her. It's just you're relating. It's like how many times in our lives does that happen, and how many times in our lives does it really come into fruition? Not that many.
Yeah.
So the fact that you both had this really random and maybe not so random idea or thought, and it's like here
But you
you
would never
are, which is
think.
so beautiful about life. What?
No, but I was gonna say, and the thing is it's one of those throwaway ideas, right? That you're like, wouldn't it be cool if I did this one day? Whatever, and then you're doing it.
Yeah.
So, and I have one more thing to add, and then I want to get back to you, Jen. But here's another one of those like coincidences that, especially Val, because we've had this conversation, we've had this on the podcast too, that you'll be like, what? So for
Mhm.
those of you who know me, know that I have been trying to get in touch with Dwayne Johnson because of the fact that I had written a script for him. And the last time we were talking about like, well, now that I'm wrestling and he's a wrestler and we have so many things in common, from our relationship with our fathers and like, having a fight with our father, like just all these weird synchronicities that I'm like, when I meet him, I get to be able to say like, this is something we have in common. Da 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 da. Where our families are from
Mhm.
Hawaii, whatever. Get this, y'all. If you haven't seen the announcement that came out last month, this fool is doing a movie in partnership with Monster Jam, playing a monster truck driver. I used to work for Monster Jam, and I was an announcer in that thing. And I'm like, ugh. I mean, I don't work for them
Wow.
anymore. But the point is like, really?
That
That's just like
is
another
funny.
universe. Hurry up and just connect us already. Jesus.
You're just adding a
It's
few
gonna
more data points to it.
Right. There's gonna be like we're gonna be able to edit like so many podcast episodes of you being like, and then Dwayne Johnson, and then and it's like
Right?
finally.
Anyway, but Jen, I actually wanted to ask you, because we've had these conversations just in general about like being out here and just like rediscovering who you are, because in essence it's like you were a child that grew up with a father and a brother and this and a that, and now you are a person who is someone who you've lost your two family members, as you said, you've done with all these different traumas, and it's like rediscovering like who am I in the world as me now.
Before you say that, there's this quote, and I might have said it on the podcast before. I definitely have put it in my Instagram or my stories, and I love it, so I will share it with you. It says, maybe the journey isn't so much about becoming anything. Maybe it's about unbecoming everything that isn't really you, so you can be who you were meant to be in the first place. And as you were telling your story and then feeling and discussing just like how you kind of left it all behind, I immediately thought of that quote because I was just like, maybe that's how it felt, but maybe you were just going towards more of who your authentic self has always been, and all these other things have just been like piling on and it's like you kind of had to take it off, take that backpack. Anyway, that was just the imagery that came as you spoke, and I love that quote anyway, so I wanted to share it.
I love that quote, and it is so accurate. I've done so much unlearning and unconditioning since I've come here. And I think I've made this analogy. I've told Ali Kona this before, but it feels like, we were all put here. We have these avatars, our our flesh suits. They're all a little different, but we're all like video game avatars with different gauges and stuff on things, but no one told us what they are. So all the experiences that we go through and have in our life are helping us figure out where those gauges are for us. So maybe we thought we started off like over here. That's what society has told us. That's what our parents have told us. But then you experience some things and you realize, no, I don't live over here on that spectrum. I'm over here. Yeah. And that's way more comfortable for me. But it's hard to shift those things when you a lot of times feel like it's been given to you. And so I thought about this when you were kind of wrapping up the last episode, is I don't love the saying like everything happens for a reason, because I feel like a lot of us, like me, like, okay, I could have learned a lot of these same lessons without so much. But everything that has happened has definitely allowed me to continue to discover who I really am. It's a crash course, I guess. Not the one that I would have chosen for myself, but I do feel like I've learned things about myself more quickly because of all the trauma I've gone through.
Teresa Espinoza, who's been a guest on our podcast a few times, said something to me, and I may have said this in past episodes, but when my dog had passed away, it was through a traumatic event, right? Like, so she had drowned, came back to life, and then by the next day had passed away. And I sat over here in a puddle of guilt for the longest time because I'm the one that let her out into this strange person's backyard and didn't realize I was letting her out into a backyard with a pool, blah, blah, blah. And Teresa was like, okay. And I'm relating this to your story, Jen, because in the fact that you've had lost people in your life, and it's easy to be like, well, why is this happening? Why is this happening? And Teresa was like, here's the thing you need to remember. Lonnie Kai, the name of my dog, Lonnie Kai is a soul, and she had a purpose, and she came to this earth with a purpose, and how she was going to leave is how she was going to leave. That is her journey, and that is her path. So once her soul fulfilled whatever it was, she left. It has nothing to do with you. So you can't be upset or blame or like that was her journey. So I think about that, and I think about like your family members, and I don't know what the purpose is of having a painful death or a slow death with cancer or whatever the case may be, but whatever it is that person's path and journey. So whether it's, you being in St. Louis when your brother was where he was when he passed away, but that's like the path. That's just, you can't feel guilty over that because that's how that was supposed to be. So, I mean, and I don't know if that's something that you feel is applicable or you're like, that's bullshit, but it made me feel a little bit better in terms of like the stuff, like I said, that happened with my dog.
Yeah.
That's hard. I want to interject. I've always been I would be the person who's like, everything happens for a reason, and you'll know soon, whatever. I feel like I've looked back at my life and things that have happened, and that's made sense to me. But I remember my ex-boyfriend's niece had leukemia, and she passed away at 2 years old. And so we were there through her journey, horrible children's hospital. I mean, that's it. Like that's, so, and I remember I wrote this long letter to his sister. And I remember writing in there, like, I know, they always say things happen for a reason and we don't know what it is. Da, 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 da. And I don't remember how it like came back full circle, but I read a thing about toxic positivity.
Yes.
And as soon as I read it, I was like, oh my God, that was me. And it like, I had like this like huge, like horrible like feeling over me of like, because I want to be the most empathetic and sympathetic, had no idea, like, there's no way I could even imagine what they were going through. I mean, obviously, because I don't have a kid. I was there in the hospital and doing shifts and stuff with my ex-boyfriend. So I was involved in raising money. I could not compare. And ever since that happened, I've just been way more sensitive to just being so damn positive all the time, or being like, look on the bright side. Because sometimes, not to say what you were saying, Alicona, was like doing that, but it just made me think that maybe that message from Teresa was perfect for you, and that made you have that like insight. And that's and Teresa knows you, and then that's what you needed, but that's not what helps everybody. Like it's, and I remember being that person and feeling so bad for like pushing my own, like, it's gonna be okay, to somebody in the midst of the depth of what that trauma was, right? Like a few years later, maybe you hear that and it's like, yeah, I can see that. But like in the depth of it, like if somebody says some shit to me, I'm going to just tell all of y'all right now listening. If and when my parents die, nobody come and say some bullshit like that to me, because I'm going to cuss you out. I just wouldn't want to hear it personally. But I think it's just different for everybody. And where you are in that.
Yeah. I like that you said that. I think that's really important to be said, because we do always want to help. And I think that toxic positivity, that is real, and that can be very difficult for someone going through grief, because it's it like invalidates their grief. And it's one of those things that you just have to go on that journey. And these, like, you know, cutesy little phrases and things, they don't really help. You want someone to say, yeah, I know it sucks, and it's okay that you don't feel good right now. And I think that that's what people want. Like, they want validation. Like, it's okay to feel bad, because you should. Like, your life just changed significantly. And so I think that is one thing that got me through a lot of this, is because I always said that to myself. Like, I was always okay with being like, oh, I'm just going to be sad now, and no one can tell me not to be sad now. And I would take it in like periods, like, okay, well, I'm just going to feel it. I'm just going to feel my sadness for 20 minutes, and then maybe I'll do something else. But yeah, sometimes those phrases are not helpful, and sometimes they could do more harm than good. But you know, I do appreciate
see that now.
Yeah.
A little insensitive almost. Yeah, I just, when I heard it, I don't even remember the first time I heard about toxic positivity. I just felt like shit. I was like, fuck. Yeah, because I was like, damn. Like, I know at some point I said something real dumb like that. I know it, because that's, but you know, but I mean, look, that's what needed to happen. Like, right? Like, I needed, and I'm sure his sister knew I had where my heart was. Yeah, good intentions, of course. I mean, most people do, but now knowing that and having been that person and realizing, oh, that was bad. Now I'm just a little bit hyper aware of just like, you don't need to tell them like it's all gonna be okay.
Right.
And that's part of the learning. That's part of the experience. Like, you do have to experience some of these things before you are gonna know. Yeah. So,
and all that to say that, again, thank you for just sharing all these things. One, just the vulnerability and just the heaviness of it is a lot. So just thank you. And for anybody going through certain things, like, if you can talk about it, talk about it. If you can't, go through the motions and seek whatever that it is that you need at that moment, or get a therapist. That journey is just so different for everybody. And obviously every situation is isolated. So you could be going through something completely unrelated. But I'm just it's super inspiring. Because I love that Alikona, you pointed out that she was like lighting up when you, and you absolutely were, when you were talking about like the journey now, the LA story, the background, the wow, like, and to have had that, and in many points in your life, even with like, you know, the weightlifting, to have had all these points in your life where you're like, this is what I'm going to do this, and then do that, and then fucking do that, but like times like 100, right? Like, not just kind of do it, like kind of do it and win medals and shit, and travel, you know, internationally, and doing this in the way that you're doing it now. That's, and we do this a lot, and I feel like as women we kind of downplay some of our successes, and I hope you're super proud of yourself, and I hope, and I see you, and like Alikona pointed out, you did light up, and I freaking loved that, because I was like, fuck yeah, like, you speak about yourself and feel good, because that's huge, man. It's huge. So it was just, felt so good to hear you be at this point, and I'm sure you have your moments, like, whatever, it's life, we all do, but like, I just, it's exciting.
I just want to interject really quick and point out the fact that it is, despite, I get that in some senses what you were doing in terms of moving is like getting away from it all, but it also takes a lot of courage to be able to be like, fuck this, like, I'm gonna quit my job and just like travel across the country to places I've never been to before, and I'm gonna do it by myself. And granted, you met up with a friend, but you still have to drive there. And being a female, not that I want to be like being a female, but you know, so many people are always like, oh, you know, don't go somewhere by yourself, and blah blah blah. So it's like, that takes a lot of courage and grit and speaks a lot about you. And I didn't even mention, by the way, prior to this, before all of the CrossFit and blah, 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 that Jen was a diver, like high diver, doing like all sorts of crazy shit that, by the way, she picked up very quickly. Very quickly.
dope.
In college, I am going to be a
Yeah.
high diver. And the bitch is like, I've seen video. And then you were like, oh, my toes are not the. I'm like, you get out of here with your toes.
I love it. No, I love that. And that's so cool.
Yeah. So
Thank you.
Yeah, you didn't bring that part up.
I
do
didn't.
remember.
No.
No.
We started in 2014. Everything before
That's
that
right.
was
Well,
no, but
either way, I guess what I wanted then, because I know we have to close soon, but and look, no one of us has a general blanket advice for everybody because everybody's journey is so specific and an individual to themselves. However, I would love to hear you, Jen, just talk about like what would be your best advice to somebody who is dealing with something that's tough and difficult, and where would you find the courage to make some sort of change like that?
oh, that's a good question. I think it's just really important to do what seems to be the best for you at that time without any regard for what someone else did or what you think someone else thinks you should do, because none of that's going to work for you. And if you just keep trying what you think is best for you at the time, you will eventually get there. It might not be right every time, and that's okay, but I would say just keep trying. Keep doing it for you. And don't take on anyone else, like is for specifically for loss. Take responsibility for your own grief journey, no one else's, even if they are your mom, even if they are your sibling, because you cannot do that for somebody else. And the best way to help someone else get through something is for you to do it yourself. So I just say be true to yourself and do what you need to do.
I love it.
Jinx.
Yeah, me a Coke. Well, thank you again, Jen, for joining us for 2 episodes and 2 very super solid, super inspiring episodes. Shall we do our what ifs?
Yes, we shall.
You want to start it?
I need to think about my what if for a second there. So I'm gonna like toss it to one of you guys and let you guys come up with your what ifs.
I'll go. It's not super thought out, but as you guys were both talking, I was thinking like, what if one or both of these episodes helps someone find themselves again and puts them on the same trajectory that Jen put herself, and finds like the successes in the future and all the things, positive things that they've always wanted. What if we open that door for someone?
I like
Love
that.
that.
Jen, do you have a what if?
Okay, so what if things can keep getting better? Even if you think they're really great now, what if there's still more? There's still further to go.
Yeah.
That's a really good one.
I will what if, and I guess this is bringing it back a little bit. Sorry, my cat is making a debut right now because she's hungry and she's like, if I just like rub my head on you, you'll feed me. But I started my what if with that whole having the time of my life, right? So it's like, what if I continue to stay in that energy? Sorry. What if I just continue to stay in that energy of just being happy with where I'm at right now? And what if that just brings about an even bigger surprise, like something that I really wanted before that I was like energetically straining to bring into my life. And now that I'm just not straining and thinking about it at all, what if I just allow it to surprise me and show up? So that's my what if.
Yay!
I
I love it.
Yeah. Oh,
Okay.
and what if where you are at right now is exactly where you're supposed to be?
There you go.
Yes, we are here. And thank you, everybody, for listening, for joining us on this journey with us, as always. Again, Jen, thank you. Alicona, gracias. Winks. Hey, girl. We hopefully you get fed soon. And until next time, everybody. Adios.
Goodbye.
Bye.